I'm Carlos Borges. I'm from Brazil. I came straight from South America just for this event, and I'm Intel analyst for Intel 471. Today we'll speak. Let me see if I can check. Oh, it's working. Thank you. Today we'll talk about Bassterlord and the manuals he crafted during his the latest years to teach novice actors in getting into ransomware operations. So the agenda today is not exactly linear, as you can see, but we will cover some things like key events that led the actor to the publication and crafting of those manuals. We will make an overview of those manuals to understand some interesting and key concepts that he introduced there. We have a big timeline to cover. We will provide some link analysis, some crypto overview. I will disclose a few additional personas which are not public, and we will talk about TTPs. So let's move it on. So, yeah, this presentation was a lot motivated by Operation Cronos last February. So one of the good outcomes of that operation is that the US Department of Treasury announced, two Russian nationals and disclosed that identity and links with the LockBit gang. So one of them is Artur Sangetov, and the other one is, of course, our objective here, Ivan Kondratiev, aka Bassterlord. So this is a big timeline to cover. Don't worry much about it. I will walk you through some of the key events. So you can see, like, on the bottom right side, we are on the end of the timeline, see about Operation Cronos and the disclosure of his persona. However, we will take a look, like since 2016. So Bassterlord, just a quick, introduction. So he's an initial access broker. He's a reputable ransomware operation. He was also a malware spammer. Those are a few of the public handles he used. So we have the National Hazard Agents, which is a handle he used, but also a reference to cybercrime game, the actor symbol. There's a Bassterlord with one S, Fishy, Buster, Alexel, and Scener. Okay, so let's start with our timeline. According, the actor claimed this in a lot of different sources, which we covered throughout the presentation. So he said that he started engaging in cybercrime around between 2016 and 2018. At the time, he was engaging with search engine optimization, carding, and hacking websites. Then we got into 2019. The actor joins the XSS forum, and there he was already engaging with malware spamming campaigns. By the end of that year, like as the fourth quarter of 2019, the actor joined Lalartus, Hackchain Lalartus. I guess most of you know is a reputable Revo affiliate, and Lalartus was a sort of mentor who taught Bassterlord a lot of ransomware operations. I can't see exactly the timeline here, but I believe that we are now in 2020 on the first month. So yeah, June 2020. There's a very interesting and major event, I guess, for Bassterlord, which is the participation on this summer article contest promoted by the LockBit gang in partnership with the XSS administrators. And the idea behind this was that the LockBit gang would pay a prize for the best articles, most interesting articles related, to cybersecurity, cybercrime, but that could support ransomware operations. Bassterlord participated in that. He created a thread. On that thread, he disclosed, some of his background, some details of the initially first breached organizations for ransomware, and his experience of exploiting the CV 2019 11510, which basically targets pure secure VPNs. So, which was sort of his first, public appearance, and that draw more attention, like for us researchers. It looked like the actor enjoying the attention received, and the same month he published this spamming tutorial. On this spamming tutorial, he spoke about a lot. It was a very detailed tutorial, and he spoke about like tools he used and in abuse, like AMS Enterprise, the use of xlead.2 underground to get access and purchase access to compromised SMTP servers, and the LT Space product, which is a legitimate service for proxies. So the idea would be to hide the origins of the malware campaigns. The thing is that on that tutorial, he put that screenshot at the right side, and he disclosed the username on the service. So this is like our first moniker likely operated by the actor, William Lidola. So William Lidola identified a profile on hacker forums which matches the same activity demonstrated by the actor in reference to malware spamming operations. We also identified some other leads, but that still need double sourcing, so I will not disclose here, but this should be basically like Discord accounts and some other similar communication channels. Moving on. He published a second tutorial, but I don't call that exactly a tutorial, because that's basically a 10-minute video illustrating him breaching a organization. So the whole process was recorded, and he posted that explaining some of the steps. On that video, we can cite things like initial access via compromised secure VPN, the use of the soft perfect, which the actor enjoys a lot, and you can see that very often, lateral movement, and privilege escalation. The most interesting thing here is that this video is a precursor to the publication of the manual, which will occur like 1 year later in August 2021. So many of those things that we can see on the first manual were actually demonstrated on this video. I won't play the video here to not expose the victim organization, but I took a few screenshots of the main, I would say, events from the video. So on this one, the actor was accessing the company with the compromised secure VPN accounts. This is his machine, his VPS machine. So you can see a lot of folders and files he was operating. Once he got access to the VPN network, he started running soft perfect. He makes a really simple recon to identify the network on the VPN connection he got. And he uses the same credentials to log on the VPN to perform an authenticated scan with soft perfect. So with that information, with that setup, he already could identify machines accessible to that VPN network that he could access with those credentials. So this is what you are seeing on the screenshot. So once he finds a good target for him, he performs lateral movement via RDP there, and he dumps the LSS process. He exfiltrates that file to his machine and import that into Mimikatz. From there, the actor can get access to plaintext credentials, and he uses that to make a new authenticated scan with more elevated credentials, and he also uses an interesting feature from Network Perfect Scanner to import all the machines from Active Directory. So basically, he starts poking every machine on the network with those more elevated credentials. So this is the results. This is basically what we're seeing here are more accessible machines. The actor kind of highlights the machines with more disk space, which would mean they are good targets for a hamster to lock. And the video ends. Okay, so moving on. During that time, the actor drew attention from LockBit, and he received, according to him, a invite to join the program. We also identified some good evidence of him working as an initial access broker for Evident during that same period. Moving on timeline. On February 2021, the actor provided an interview to the actor Yashichika. I usually say that, not sure what's correct, but they apparently developed a good relationship. And one thing worth mentioning is that Yashechka was a node translator of cybersecurity articles within the XSS board. On that interview, the actor provided a few details of few details about his personal life. He claimed to operate as an affiliate for this Hainsworth program, so River, RansomX, LockBit, and Avedon. And he was heavily criticized by several members of the XSS, especially due to the public attention we received, and most of them called it like a mediocre ransomware operation due to use some basic techniques. He claimed at the time to operate in only a few underground forums, like 1 and 2, maybe XSS only, However, this is a simplified version and link analysis we made, and I would highlight this is a simplified version, we have more, of some of those handles he used. So starting with Bassterlord on the XSS, we just make a connection where he was using a Telegram account linked to Scener, which is a handle that became public in February. So Bassterlord shared that Jabber account below, and that same Jabber account was also used on Raid forums and the exploit forums. On exploit, he was using the handle editor, which is a possible reference that the actor was working with web designer before getting into cybercrime. This was his claims. And here we have an assessment. So that editor account posted a very specific victim on the forum. And like 1 or 2 days later, the account March Machiko also posted the exact same victim. We can theorize a bit about that. You could perform some ACH, but that should be probably one affiliate of his, and we could theorize about that. However, we also identified the March Machiko Gmail account, which was used to register the editor account on Raid forum. So we have a very interesting link with a no handle he was also using. Yeah, moving on. August 2021, he publishes the first manual. It had 60 pages. As I said, it reflects much of the actors on the underground activities. And some initial insights that we provide are a few underground services the actor mentioned on that manual. So the first one is mass scan online to discover targets. It's have similar functions to Shodan, for instance. The Barhost bulletproofing provider, and crack mdefy.ru, which is basically a database of cracked passwords. So whenever the actor got a hashed password, he could just drop that into the service to see if the actors had that cracked into the database. The first manual also included a set of tools delivered together with the manual. On that, I mean, there's a few tools. I can explain those tools later for whoever is interested. I wasn't planning to detail those, but just so everyone is aware. So the manual basically said things about gaining access, how to gain access to companies, escalating privilege, performing lateral movement, and identification of good targets to lock within the network. There was no details about data exfiltration or extortion tactics on those manuals. And I will provide a more summarized overview once we also cover the second manual. So on the next slides, we'll get into it and get more details of the manuals together, I would say. Moving on timeline. We're now in November 2021. And the actor posted a comment on XSS saying that he would retire from hands-on operations. His account was voluntarily banned from the forum. However, he kept operating on forum under the fisheye handle. And there he disclosed an affiliation with AlphaV after he was criticizing some aspects of their operation. One interesting thing is that there was an updated version of the first manual. This updated version was created about March 2022, and that included 5 additional pages. So the content included things like some comments about the war between Russia and Ukraine, some information he got into cryptocurrency trading, and he said some things about some public research made analyzing the first manual. It also included a new quick tutorial exploiting BlueKeep to get access in vulnerable RDP machines. But this is like, oh, BlueKeep, right? That's old. But the interesting link here is that he was using a custom tool. That tool was developed by the actor Playbit, who is a reputable and well-known actor for developing, I would say, one-day vulnerability tool. So whenever a new vulnerability is disclosed, the actor kinds of develop the tools and start selling there in the ground. He was a lot well-versed with operational system vulnerabilities. So BlueKeep was one of his targets. On that manual, on the last additional page, he also posted some, made some appraise to a few actors, which is interesting. In 3, they collaborated somehow to the content included on those manuals. So you can see like TMT, Lalarto, or Bodia, which is a reference to Wasawaka, also supporting. Wasawaka probably was credited for this due to some collaborations with VMware breaching. There's also the actors Satyr and Marmalade Kinate. Moving on timeline. It's December 2022, and the actor starts offering the second manual for $10,000. This manual was 24 pages and included additional methods to gain initial access, escalate privileges, and breach VMware-based technologies. Some interesting thing that occur in both manuals is that the actor always included screenshots taken from real victims. And the presence of the password is like everywhere. So there's an interesting link, not exclusive to Bassterlord though. So in May 2023, he leaked a redacted version of that manual after some online conflicts he had with ProDeft. However, we also got access to the unredacted version, and we understood why he leaked that redacted version, because there was a lot of information about the breached victims, and some of those would high profile, like providers for big government entities and billion-dollar companies. So there were things like VPN credentials used to get access into that. On the latest pages, it included 2 cryptocurrency addresses, one operated by Bassterlord and another operated by Yashicheka. And here I have some interesting crypto links that I included. They are very basic. There is a lot of other correlated addresses, so this is just a simplification. So at the center, there is the address included on the manual. And you remember I said in December he starts selling the manuals. At the same period, we observed a lot of transactions of about $10,000, which means, arguably it's that those are potential buyers. Most of the money he got from that cluster of address was sent to KuCoin exchange. In September, like 2 months before he disclosed this address, national hazard agents, his hacking crew, they breached an organization in Chile, and there was a ransom note that included the address at the right side. There was a transaction flowing and going to the address he operated linked to the manuals. So there's another link from a real breach with an address the actor shared within the manual. Another interesting link, so I mentioned there was a good connection of him with Yashetka, and there were some interactions with them on the forum where he claimed to make a transfer to support Yashetka with some medical care. And that transaction was of about $80,500. And analyzing the transaction we see that that amount originated from KuCoin exchange, which is another good lead that he operated an account there. So those, the first quarter of 2023 was some busy months to Bassterlord. So at the time, he provided interviews to the Record and Analyst 1. He claimed to return to the LockBit ransomware as a service program, and he announced a new retirement. However, as the first time, he also kept operating with ransomware operations. So you see a trend here, right? So let's take a look on the manuals. So this is just an overview of the tools the actor is using. So we can see there the use of some of the tools that I mentioned above, like mesoline scan. However, checking the main techniques he used to gain initial access in those organizations, we can say that most of that was related to the actor brute forcing corporate VPNs, using BlueKeep, and exploiting vulnerable corporate VPNs, with vulnerabilities, of course. Once he got access to an organization, he spawns a software perfect network scanner, and from there he starts looking for targets. What kind of targets those were? Mainly, of course, most of the techniques within the manuals speak about escalating privileges to domain controllers. So you can see there's like the NOPAC vulnerability, but he also used a lot of common red team techniques, like Cabra roasting, ASP wrap roasting. He also used the tools Cabroot to identify domain accounts, through the Cabra's authentication protocol, and use the legend to conduct those brute force account attacks. His objectives here was always it's common, right? So I need to get elevated credentials. I need to dump the NTDS database, the SAN database. I need to dump the LSAS process. This is kind of a common procedure that we see in the text. Once he got access to those elevated credentials, he performs a new scan with them. And then he finds the targets and tries to log them. There was a very indirect reference. He was not very explicit about that, but there was a section within the manuals where he said, "Oh, how can you run a file in a remote machine?" Which is, is a reference to how to deploy a ransomware to a remote machine, and he did that through PSSAC. So some things and insights that I can provide looking at those manuals is that they leverages effective and fast manual. That's what he's always looking for, the most effective and fast methods. And one interesting is that actors look on these manuals as a method to learn about ransomware operations. And we, as defenders, organizations should also take a look at those manuals and interpret them as a good strategy to fight ransomware attacks. So those, as Will Thomas recently said to me, those are templated attacks. I like that definition. So this could be some good guides for us to protect against this. I will do a quick mention to a section on the manuals where he speaks about how they attack VMware technologies, which is the content from the slide. So first, imagine they got a domain account with elevated access. So in many organizations, VMware vCenter, which is a centralized interface that you can control virtualized machines. In most, not most, in many organizations, VMware vCenter might be communicating with the domain. So in that case, the actor will try to use those credentials, log into VMware vCenter, and verify if VMware ESX, which is the hypervisor where the virtual disks are, is also connected to the domain. If that's not the case, what the actor does, so this is the idea for this slides. He created a ESX admins global group and inserts an account on that group. He accesses VMware vCenter. Remember, it's not linked. VMware vCenter, actually, VMware ESX is not linked to the domain. So he forces that connection to the domain. So now he can use that account linked with the ESX admins group to log into VMware ESX. And from there, he now has an option to change the VMware ESX root account password. This allows now him to log into VMware via ESX via SSH, and from there he can control the virtual disk as he wishes. So this is an interesting, those are template attacks, but however, they're still effective, and you can still learn some interesting techniques from that. And I say that because I have seen only like 2 or 3 reports mentioning these techniques by ransomware operators. And there was a nice report, I guess it was from Sophos, if I'm not wrong, where they mentioned the Akira ransomware as a service group also use a similar technique. However, these open source reports usually didn't provide further context on why the actors did that. So, can have some general idea of it. We are on the last stages of our timeline. So what do you got now? That is possibly, and I emphasize possibly, a persona-operated account with the Bratislava username. That account was also present on the RAMP forums, Hansel forums, and XSS. There are some good leads that this account might be operated by Bassterlord, such as he posted a screenshot from the Fisheye webcomics, which is the guy's a fan. There are arts through the manuals, In December, he posted a screenshot of the AlphaV panel during that disruption operation as a proof that he still got access to that was still working. And he posted a lot of comments to researchers indicating, giving hints of, that he could be better. However, seeing that occurring, that account posted a comment saying, "Oh, you're saying that about I'm not Bassterlord." He posted that, claiming that. And we have a bonus. So we are getting to an end of the presentation, and just last month, a new persona arrived on the Access forum using the Mason handle. And that account offered a third version of the manuals. The actor Mason claimed affiliation with Bassterlord. He didn't said he was Bassterlord anyways, And the content that I can anticipate in providing you here for this new manual is that is heavily focused in identifying targets. I mean, using like corporate email addresses, linking that with potential targets, identifying VPN corporate portals linked with the domains from that email addresses, things like that. And he's probably also using some underground tools to conduct brute force count attacks. So this is what this new manual is about. Okay, and I can always provide further context. There, we have plenty of additional details on almost every slides. So whoever interested, just reach out. Thank you.